folks, what does the world need with another video about the 12-bar blues? Because it's true, you could literally take your pick over thousands of videos telling you how to play the 12-bar blues. But have you ever thought about why it even exists at all? How does it have such a huge reach? Where did the 12-bar blues even come from? It's commonly understood that the blues was a developing musical style in small communities of color at the end of the 1800s. I'm no scholar. I can't really speak to all those details. I'll leave a few links below if you want to dig into that on your own. But it does leave a gap in the knowledge of how it got from these small, oppressed communities to becoming one of the most important progressions in American history. How did that even happen? And that is the part of the story that I want to tell today, to make a study of the song that gave the world the blues, W.C. Handy's Memphis Blues. My name is Kyle Orlow. Welcome to another installment of the Numerical Blues. We're checking out all the important chord progressions in American music. We started with the 8-bar blues. We checked out the odd-bar blues. And next in numerical order, that's the 12-bar blues. Everybody's favorite? It should be. It's an important one, 12-bar blues. Now, it's no shock to say that it's probably one of the most iconic chord progressions ever developed, and it's definitely the first one that I teach people, because there's just so many songs you can learn from it, so many ways you can go. It's a really special chord progression, too, because it represents a shift in kind of the American consensus of what's expected out of music, or definitely in popular music. But before we get into all that, it's really important to have like a clear idea of what we're talking about here. What is the 12-bar blues? If you're already familiar with the 12-bar blues, you can probably skip ahead. But if you're not, or you want to learn about it from somebody who has a huge background in some of the earliest blues music ever to be recorded, let's set this up. What is the 12-bar blues? So 12-bar obviously dictates like 12 bars of music that just cycles on end. Well, it's not the whole story, because there is music that cycles through 12 bars that doesn't follow the 12-bar formula. It gets a little bit confusing, so let me explain. If you've ever had somebody ask you, hey, let's play a 12-bar, that's referring to a very specific sequence of chords. Now, it's not limited to only those chords, but once you have an understanding of that specific sequence, you have access to literally endless variations. It's a bit like saying, hey, let's go for a drive. Now, where you go is up for interpretation, but the act of driving, the rules of driving, put your foot on the throttle, stop at red lights, go at green lights, those are constant. It would be different than saying, hey, let's go for a walk. The idea of what it means to go for a walk, the pace, the act, the rules, they're different, even though you're getting to the same end. Because of this, you'll find a lot of different ways to play the 12-bar blues, but you're always experiencing that same 12-bar form. You just might make different choices. The analogy might have been a little far-fetched, but let's just check out a basic 12-bar blues here. Now, the easiest way to illustrate this is just take 12 bars of G. 12 bars, one chord. Now, this is really the roots of this stuff. You can check out early country blues stuff that's singing a 12-bar blues progression with one chord. Let's check out Maddie Delaney's Down the Big Road Blues.
I can't go down that big road by myself. I can't go down that big road by myself. If I can't carry you, I carry someone else.
So what's so cool about that is she's singing a basic 12-bar blues in AAB lyrical structure, but the chords never change. You could reharmonize any chord you want within that framework, and you'd still have like a 12-bar form, but the 12-bar blues, 12-bar, is a very specific reharmonization of this idea of this 12-bar form. So looking at this chart again, if you wanted to take this 12-bar as one chord and kind of reharmonize it into what's understood as the 12-bar blues today, you'd keep that first line all G. The second line, instead of it being all G, swap those first two measures for C, all right? But the other two are still G. And that last line, instead of swapping it to C, swap it to D. And you're going back to G then for those last two measures. That's the basic 12-bar blues. Again, it's coming from almost just like a one-chord idea, 12-bar idea, with an AAB lyrical structure, and then just reharmonizing it with the two most common chords that American music has. That's the 1 chord, the 4 chord, and the 5 chord. And that's it, You get the 1 chord, moving to the 4 chord, back to the 1 chord, move to the 5 chord. And most of my favorite blues songs are this. And you can add in little licks. You can even add in little moving chords, little turnarounds, right? The possibilities are truly endless, and that is the point of this whole thing. You learn it in its basic form, and then you innovate from it. Some people innovate a little more intensely than others. But rather than do all this in today's video, check out my Patreon page. At the end of the month, we're going to go into a bunch of different variations for the 12-bar blues in different keys, including variations for the subject of this video, Memphis Blues. So Memphis Blues, if you've never heard the tune, is written by a guy named W.C. Handy, and if you've never heard of W.C. Handy, well, because of him, we even know any of these blues tunes at all. It's because he kind of just commodified a folk art. You know, it's the whole, yeah, that whole story. But W.C. Handy, very important figure. So W.C. Handy was an African-American composer born in 1873 from a little town called Memphis, Tennessee, and coined himself the father of the blues. Now, Handy didn't invent the blues, nor did he claim to. As the story goes, he was sitting there waiting for a train to arrive when he experienced the weirdest music he ever heard. And he described some old-timer playing slide guitar with a knife. Now, a part of this weirdness, yes, was that, you know, it was archaic and, you know, maybe primitive. But another part of it was just new. It was different. He was playing an African-American form, now known as the 12-bar blues, that was different than the more commonly heard 16-bar that you'd hear in, like, you know, rags and marches. But what made him the father of the blues is he was the first to compose in this new, weird 12-bar form. And this innovation led to what was sometimes called the Song of 1912, originally titled Mr. Crump, and later repackaged and branded as Memphis Blues. And it's worth mentioning that nobody saw this coming. Not even Handy, who wrote the tune. He sold it for $50 to another publishing company, which is insane. So he saw no royalties through its peak distribution until about the 40s, when he bought it back when it ended up in public domain, which is only right. During this time, nobody had the taste for this stuff outside of the communities where it was developing, so the strategy was just to write or record music that was in this kind of blues world and let the market tell them what was good. It's a bit like the AI boom today, to be honest. You know, a lot of these AI song makers, they're not musicians, so they're just kind of letting AI make music and then let the market tell them what's good. It's weird. But either way, it all spurs from this accidental hit that was inspired by an incidental encounter of some guy playing guitar with a knife. But let's check this out. What made Memphis Blues such a sensation? So Memphis Blues was first published in 1912 and distributed through sheet music, but the first recording of Memphis Blues was by the Victor Military Band in 1914. Now there are 3 parts to this tune, but the first part and the last part are what we now call the 12-bar blues. It's in E flat. It starts in E flat. It does change keys, but it's in E flat. And we're gonna check out the first part today. It follows the same rules as like a blues in G, right? You've got the 1 chord for 4 bars, and the next line you move to the 4 chord for 2, back to the 1 chord, and the last line you move to the 5 chord for 2, back to the 1 chord. Of course, in keeping with the tradition of ragtime music, there are some really cool passing chords in this original version, but it all stems from this very basic 12-bar blues. It's worth mentioning that there are some really cool recordings of Memphis Blues in kind of the folk string band tradition. Check out Memphis Blues by the Mobile Strugglers, a string band from Alabama. And a little while later, the Louis James String Band out of New Orleans. Now, this is a folk interpretation of a popular song, which happens all the time. Popular music can inspire folk music, just like folk music can inspire popular music too, right? These things are not separate. They feed each other. They're playing this, I think, out of G, so not E flat. It's a little out of tune, but they're both around the world of G, which is a great key on guitar. If you want to play this as like a self-accompanied fingerstyle guitar player, it definitely doesn't work that well in E flat. And G, honestly, doesn't lay that well too if you're going to do the modulations that Memphis Blues does. So let's move it to the key of C and just check out this first strain. So it's really just a 12-bar blues in C. Some passing chords. Like that one. Moving the 4 chord. Back to the 1. that's it. I'll actually have this kind of fingerstyle arrangement with all these cool passing chords notated in over on the Patreon. Of course, there will be the long lesson talking about where those chords really come from and what they're doing in this song and why they work. If you want to keep up with the series and know more about these chord progressions as we go along, subscribe, save the playlist, and we will see you at the next Numerical Blues.